Hey guys, this is Shadow and this is Budgeting Without Fear. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what a budget is and why you should do it. When people hear budget, they immediately think of sacrifice, boring, it's complicated, they don't really know if they want to do it or not. I was definitely one of these people. Luckily, I'm one of the few people that had a support system. My dad has budgeted his entire life. He knows everything that goes in and goes out and everything about his money. And even though I had that great resource, I never listened to him. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I didn't make enough money to make any changes, so it didn't matter. I didn't have anything to show for the fact that I was spending money left and right. To the point where I dreaded going to his house because I knew what the conversation was going to be about. It was me talking about my money issues and him having the answer and me being too stubborn to listen. It took me wanting to buy a house and researching everything myself and coming up to my own conclusions before I ever thought about budgeting. If you're one of those people that are like me, you start looking at YouTube, you start getting the answers that you need through other sources. If I'm being told to do something, I'm not going to listen. So there's more to a budget than crunching numbers and cutting back on eating out and cutting back on coffee. Even though those are very important things and definitely things we're going to talk about, it's an emotional process. So emotional, it activates our fight or flight response. There were times that I almost had a panic attack just looking at my bank account and knowing how much I didn't have in there. Or going to the grocery store and checking out, terrified that my card would decline. Or even worse, that I would have to put some stuff back. Not having a budget or not having a plan had me either borrowing through debt or borrowing through my family to make it to the next paycheck. And I was stuck in that paycheck to paycheck cycle, which most people are. Budgeting doesn't have to be this bad word or, like I've said in the previous video, a dirty word. It's just a plan for your money. It's about spending money on things that are important to you and important to your family. There's multiple different ways to budget. Finding one that fits for you takes trial and error. And that's okay. If it's not a perfect fit, you can keep trying and keep going, doing way better than you used to do, even 5 minutes ago. In future videos, I'm going to show you different budgeting techniques and how I do my own budget, and maybe that will give you some ideas of what you can do in your own budget. There's multiple components to a budget. One of the first ones is making the decision to make a plan for your future. The second one is probably the hardest part, is tracking your spending, knowing what comes in and what comes out. On the surface, this doesn't sound scary. This requires you to reflect on yourself and your decisions and your choices, and it's on paper and right in front of you, and sometimes that's very difficult to look at. It was very difficult for myself. That was one of the hardest parts, in my opinion, of starting my financial journey, was the fact of sitting down and wondering where my money was going and then finding out exactly where it was going. Because I didn't have anything to show for it. I thought that I didn't spend enough money. I thought I was cheap, and because I didn't have money. Every time I go to the store to get something, it was almost, I'd get my card declined or whatever. But it was because of that I never had any money. And it was because I was spending on things that you don't even realize is coming out of it. Amazon subscriptions that you forgot about because you canceled it, but you didn't really cancel it. Or $5 here for a Coke and a sandwich here, or another $10 here for lunch, and another $8 here for those nutrition teas. All those kind of things started piling up, and you don't realize it until at the end when you don't have any money, or your bank charges you an overdraft fee because you didn't pay your bill because you didn't realize that you set up auto pay for a particular bill because you don't know when your due dates are. That's a big part of tracking your money too, is knowing when your due dates are, and not a general idea of, it's around the 10th, I think, is when the light bill is due. It's having a specific day. It's going to come out on this particular day. This is the amount it's going to be. Have it where you can get to it. The best way to track your spending is to go through your statement, your bank account statement. Not everybody has that. Some people do cash. This may require you to keep up with your receipts so you know where your money's going over the next few months. I would recommend getting a free checking account. You can either get one of these at your local bank. There are now online banks that give you benefits and all that kind of stuff for joining them. And I recommend going back 2 to 3 months and going through each category that you were spending on. Make a category for eating out, a category for gas, category for your normal bills, your regular expenses, a category for variable expenses, all these different categories that you can break your money down into to see where it's going. I would forget about due dates, and then I didn't have enough money in my bank account, so then I had to pay overdraft fees, and then I had to fix those. And so tracking your expenses, especially when you have a bank account, is very, very important. You do not want to give banks or anybody extra money, especially when you're in a tight spot and can't afford to give any kind of extra money. Least of all the ones that make all kinds of money off of us. So I would definitely track your expenses. Now it's time to list your expenses. The ones where you cannot live without having. This is a roof over your head. This is transportation back and forth to work. This is your food. And this is your general hygiene. You know, your soap, your toothpaste, all that kind of stuff. You're not going to be able to make it at your job or anywhere else without these things. Not to mention it's not good for your health to not be able to brush your teeth or anything like that. You need to be able to take care of yourself. So these 4 things, these 4 categories are what's most important right now. Even if you have debt collectors out on your back, even if you owe family money, this takes priority over everything, because you can't get anywhere if you don't have a roof over your head. You can't get anywhere if you can't have a vehicle to get somewhere, or if you live in a city or somewhere like that where you have public transportation. You have to prioritize these things. Next is to list your other expenses. This could be your internet. This could be your debt minimum payments. This isn't anything extra. If you're putting $50 towards one card and $100 towards your car note or your mortgage or something like that, you shouldn't be doing that. Right? As we're listing this right now, you're just listing minimum payments to make it through. And the rest are your variable expenses. These are your subscriptions. These are your fun things, different things like that. If you're in a major bind, you're going to need to cut these at least temporarily. Now what's left to do is to subtract your income from your expenses. Now if you do this and you see a negative number, don't panic. There are 3 things that you can do to fix this. The first one is to go through all of your expenses and cut out any of the extra stuff. Cut out any eating out, cut out your subscriptions, cut out your fun, cut out anything that's not necessary for you to survive. This is going to be your bare bones budget. This is going to be the absolute minimum. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where you can have the fun stuff. You also need to know this for your emergency fund. The next way is going to be increase your income. Now, that can be very difficult. Not everybody is in a position where they can just increase their income because of medical reasons, because of area that they live in. Sometimes you have to think outside the box when you're in these situations. Sometimes it's just asking your employer for a raise. Sometimes it's multiple jobs and side hustles that can get you through until you can get a better career. The third is definitely seems obvious, is to do both of these things. Most people end up having to do this. I had to do this. I cut all of my expenses and it wasn't enough. I had to increase my income. It takes an incredible amount of courage to even make it this far into a budget. Money may not be everybody's hobby, but it's definitely something that everybody has to deal with. That's why I felt the need to start this channel, to be able to help. If you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel. I will be releasing content every Friday and little bits of content here and there. Thank you for watching this channel, and I'll see you for the next one.